So spake he, and I answered him, saying, Teiresias, all these threads, methinks, the gods themselves have spun. But come, declare me this, and plainly tell me all. I see here the spirit of my mother dead. Lo, she sits in silence near the blood, nor deigns to look her son in the face, nor speak to him. Tell me, prince, how may she know me again, that I am he? So spake I, and anon he answered me, and said, I will answer thee an easy saying, and I will put it in thy heart. Whomsoever of the dead that departed, thou shalt suffer to draw nigh to the blood. He shall tell thee sooth, but if thou shalt grudge any, that one shall go to his own place again. Therewith the spirit of the prince Teiresias went back within the house of Hades, when he had told all his oracles. But I abode there steadfastly, till my mother drew nigh, and drank the dark blood. And at once she knew me, and bewailing herself spake to me winged words. Dear child, how didst thou come beneath the darkness and the shadow? Thou that art a living man. Grievous is the sight of these things to the living, for between us and you are great rivers and dreadful streams. First Oceanus, which can no wise be crossed on foot, but only if one have a well-wrought ship. Art thou but now come hither with thy ship and thy company in thy long wanderings from Troy? And hast thou not yet reached Ithaca, nor seen thy wife in thy halls? Okay, scratch the last 2 episodes that I have given about the mechanics of this blood and whether or not he sees his mother. Teiresias basically tells Odysseus how the blood works, that once a shade is permitted to drink, then and only then can they recognize and speak truthfully. Now, is that true, though? Because both Elpenor and Teiresias recognized Odysseus without the blood, but this is the only way that Anticleia can see Odysseus and speak to him. And in this transaction, Anticleia is the one who begins asking the questions of Odysseus, not Odysseus of his mother. Maybe that will come tomorrow, depending on how long this conversation lasts. But continuing the slightly confusing nature here, the blood seems to have given Teiresias the power of prophecy, but here it's just giving Anticleia the power of recognition of her son. Otherwise, she wouldn't be asking, how did you get here? You who are still amongst the living, right? Also, I don't think unimportant that to Odysseus' character in this entire story, that even after receiving a huge prophecy from Teiresias, which he's been waiting for, that's what he's been protecting the pool of blood for, he hears all of it. And what's his response? Teiresias, all these threads methinks the god themselves have spun. But come, declare me this and plainly tell me all. I see here the spirit of my dead mother. ... So what does that mean? To me, I interpret that as Odysseus saying, whatever comes one direction or another, the gods have already decided these things, and I can't do much about them. What I care about more is that my mother is standing right there, and I want to know more about why she can't recognize me. Now, why I think this is interesting and important is that, generally speaking, obviously it's different for everybody and not universally, but universal enough, I think, to claim that one's mother can be symbolic of or representative of home. This is potentially Odysseus getting a glimpse of home for the first time, like a concrete glimpse of home for the first time since he's been gone. And the glimpse he's getting isn't that everything is okay. The glimpse he's getting is, my mother is dead. Things have changed. Not necessarily for the better, but more than anything, he just doesn't know. It's the confusion of it all. It's the alienation and loneliness. I don't think I'm too far off in suggesting that, because what she asks here is saying, like, coming to this place isn't easy. You have to come on a really strong ship and cross Oceanus, that river going around the perimeter of the world. Uh, and she asks, why did you come here by ship in your wandering home from Troy? Have you not yet gone home to Ithaca to see your wife and home? We don't have a response to that today. Hopefully it'll be tomorrow. But his mother representing, or at least presenting, questions of home to Odysseus. As we talked about yesterday, elongating this moment of Odysseus's recognition of his mother, kind of creating an open wound. Now we have salt in that wound from her asking him about things that he so desperately wants but has no answers to. And one last thing I want to say before we end today's episode is just the idea of this blood being used to give access to voice. Because it's not really, I mean, if we look at the transformation of the mother figure here, of Anticleia, she is in a state where she doesn't recognize Odysseus before she drinks the blood. The blood, I think it's worth asking, like, does it give them access to their identity, to their memory? Like, is she just the visage of his mother until she drinks the blood, and then suddenly her identity emerges from the shade? Is it buried? Is it just an empty vessel? The blood gives rise to memories and who she is. And I don't think that's unimportant, because blood, is a life force. And to me, this is kind of saying that if you're dead, you don't have blood. By giving the dead blood, you are giving them access to what they had when they were living. It would be very different if Odysseus had just poured some wine into the trench, or honey, or, any other substance. The fact that he has poured blood to give them voice and memory, I think is a very sophisticated symbol that Homer, or, the collective of Homer, has chosen here. And whether or not audiences of the time recognized it, I would assume they're probably more in touch with the body, mind, spirit connection than modern audiences are. I think it plays on something subliminal. It's kind of a reverse death in a way. Instead of blood spilt, it's blood given. So instead of taking life away, it's giving life back to. Okay, enough snooty stuff for today. Join me here tomorrow as we continue with a little bit more of Book 11. Until then, okay, goodbye. Odyssey is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. The show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Odyssey, written by Homer. Theme song by Neuroflow. You can support this show and other shows like it by going to patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.